Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Sense of Things for this week. We've been off for a couple weeks, taking some time individually for the both of us, and we're back in the game today. So today we're going to talk about what I call Groundhog Day, another day of the shutdown. We're going to talk about that. Ron's got some good information for us, talking a little bit about more on the shutdown. We'll be talking a little bit about some other economic facts and other market facts, especially around bubbles today. So stay tuned. We'll be right back on in just 1 second. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hey, Ron, how you doing, bud?
Good morning. Fall is here and I love it.
I know. We actually had a fall last week. It was like in the 50s and 40s in the mornings, which, of course, it was November before that happened. But just saying.
Hey, the Christmas stuff was out before Halloween, man. It just
I know. Yeah, it's like they just totally forgot about Thanksgiving now. I just think it's old.
After they were talking about Black Friday specials on November 1st.
Yep, exactly.
You know what? The way these retailers are, it's going to be Black Friday every day until Christmas anyway.
Honestly, I think they start Black Friday somewhere around September now.
The way Amazon and Walmart are doing it, they're always doing their special days. So
yeah,
I'm good.
But even Amazon's had a second Amazon Day this year. Just
the Prime Day, and then 11/11. I think they did. Oh no, they did 2 days in October. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, where they're having these big days like that. So yeah, hey, whatever. They've become a major force when it comes to everything at this point. It was interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about Amazon stock, and they've had two massive outages in their East data center in the last couple of weeks. But you look at their stock, and it's just kept on cranking along.
All-time high.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. All right, we're going to kick off. You've got some fun facts for us, or this week in history.
I don't think it's funny. Sometimes there's always a nice gem in there every now and then. And I thought these were good facts, but not like unbelievable facts. So here we go. 1872, Susan B. Anthony cast a vote prompting an arrest. God forbid. 48 years before American women gained the right to vote. 1869, I did not know this. Rutgers beats Princeton in the first college football game. I did not think football started back then. I could only imagine what the uniforms, there probably were no helmets. I could only imagine the rules they had. It was probably like a bunch of headless chickens running around, but who knows?
Yeah. But the rules are based on rugby, which had been around for couple hundred years or at least 100 years at that point. But yeah, I mean, they had helmets, but they had faceless helmets. So those guys, if you look at some of those guys back in those early days, they look pretty rough after they'd been playing for a few years.
A lot of clotheslines going on with the arm.
Yep.
All right, 1883, Black Bart makes his last stagecoach robbery. What was the clue that he left? He left a handkerchief with a laundry mark.
Yep.
Came back to smartest criminals, right? 1887, Doc Holliday dies of tuberculosis.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Now, you know what? A lot of people love Tombstone. Tombstone's here in southern Arizona. I have not been there yet. People say, it's a nice little day trip. I should probably go.
A little kitschy little town. Yeah, exactly.
They reenact the OK Corral thing, I think at noon or something like that.
Yeah. You mean the OK Backyard?
1895, German scientist Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen becomes first person to observe X-rays. I was reading the article. It was actually pretty interesting. Obviously, I don't think there was too much safety involved, but he did something where something glowed and he was able to see bones. It was pretty interesting, but it sounded like super dangerous at that time too. But all discoveries have to happen in one way.
Well, you figure, who's her face, that discovered X-rays, she ended up dying of radiation sickness.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They weren't covering the family jewels back then.
Absolutely not. Or they're sitting there with their face right next to it, looking at what was glowing at the time.
Let me touch it. Let me touch it. 1924, California legalizes professional boxing after a 10-year ban. I didn't think that this was the most interesting one, but the fact that they banned it and then Who knows? And back then, boxing was very different when they had 20 rounds or until one guy was unconscious.
Yeah, until you just beat your opponent to yeah, with no real gloves. They were basically just pieces of leather over your knuckles to keep your knuckles from bleeding, but
Pretty much. Yeah, there wasn't very much padding in there.
nope.
It's 1964. This was interesting. DC residents cast first presidential votes since 1800. And the reason for this, I was reading it, was Philadelphia was a temporary center of government until 1800. Then
Okay.
they created DC. But from 1800 to 1964, DC residents weren't able to vote.
Couldn't even vote for.
I thought this is the most interesting fact out of all of them.
Yeah, I get it that they're not a state and all that, but they're still citizens of the United
They
States.
have electoral votes.
Yeah.
When did that start? Because if they couldn't vote until 1964, the electoral system started way before that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. We'll have to do some research for the next
Yeah,
one.
it's interesting. Yeah, like I said, okay, how fair was that? You were an American citizen, but you couldn't vote in your country just because of where you live. That kind of
So
sucks.
maybe they went outside of DC. I don't know, but it doesn't make any sense. More research to come, folks.
Yes.
1994. I remember watching this live. George Foreman
Yes.
becomes the oldest heavyweight champ, beating Michael Moore. And Michael Moore, I can tell you, he was the champ. He looks overmatched with George would not go down.
Nope.
He just
Oh, and it
kept-
was an ugly
he was
fight,
a
too.
real socket guy. He just kept
Yeah,
punching away.
and it was the ugliest fight ever in history, but George just kept, you can't knock the guy down.
He was tired. He was smart. Why should he retain his title? He had it twice, 20
Yep.
years apart.
and fine. Yeah.
And it made him a cultural icon because all the great commercials and everything else he did. The George Foreman grill. By the way, I think I did mention this fact. Do you know who was offered to put their name on that grill before it's George Foreman, and he turned it down?
No clue.
Hulk Hogan.
Wow.
Yeah. Fun fact.
The Hulk grill.
Yes. And I
It would've
forgot.
been-
And I remember Hulk in an interview saying, yeah, instead of the grill, I ended up doing this like blender or something. Whatever it was so ridiculous.
Something nobody wanted.
But he goes, oh, one of those things.
Of course,
All
the
right.
Hulkamania thing, it would, the Hulk grill would have had a feather bow on it and all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. Cap the 24-inch pythons. Anyway, here we go. 24-hour trading. This was a topic that came up in the late 90s. If you were a trader, you loved it because if you were a junkie for this, you wanted it all the time. I don't like it. I'm curious to get your opinion because these are the two major potential problems that I foresee. What if you're in a position, right? Yeah, you can have a limit stop order in there, but it dumps overnight or the weekend and you know about it. And the other big thing, because more so today than 25, 30 years ago, it opens it up for significant market manipulation of people just playing both sides and moving the bid ask. I remember when I did trading years ago, you could trade in the off hours. There were no market orders. You could put in limit orders after earnings or something. You could see things moving around pretty violently in the after.
And I mean, it's still, you have after hours trading today and that stuff goes on because you'll see the markets move like crazy after hours, but then when the market opens and normal trading happens, it calms it down a little bit. But
they were talking about another issue, and then I want to get your thought on it. You know what? You got to settle these things. So now you're opening it up for custodians. You got to have people working 24/7, 7 days a week because they've got to do all the administrative work. They're not going to just let it go on the weekend, even though it might be lighter trading. But if they did 24-hour trading, you'll get people working the weekend because people make money on volatility up and down. They don't make money if it's flat. So they'll get people in there and they will manipulate the market. I think this is bad. I remember I worked on the floor of the stock exchange when I was in high school during the summers, and it was the first year that they added a half an hour because the market was open 10 to 4 for decades. And then I think it was either 84, 85. They went from 9:30 to 4, which it's been like that now for 42 years. Why change it?
Yeah. Once again, I think today, especially, and it doesn't necessarily have to be manipulation as much as you've got all these trading platforms today that a lot of it is robotic trading or AI trading at this point. You got to have some humans involved, and they can't work 24-hour days. You can't have two shifts of traders working all throughout the weekends and everything else. It's a bad idea. There's plenty of time to trade during market hours. There's no need for 24-hour trading at this point.
And here's the interesting thing. The E-mini futures, other than from Friday night to Sunday night, you could trade that 24 hours a day.
Absolutely.
Except for those 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
So you could trade that all night long. So if something happens in Europe or in Asia, you could trade in the off hours on that. But stock trading, I don't know. I give it a thumbs down. I don't like
I do too. And like you were saying, with settlement times, it's not trade plus 3 anymore. So now you're going to have to settle
it's T+1 for the most part.
I know. That's the thing. It's okay. So now, something happens over Saturday. Okay, who's gonna make sure that transaction happens correctly and the market's running in good order? No, I think it's a horrible idea.
I agree. So here's interesting. Now this is a week old, but here we are now, November 6th. We are 37 days, the longest government shutdown in history. So what's next? What's the impact to the economy? And I truly believe, because we were talking about what if this goes into Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
All these people that haven't gotten paychecks for 6, 7, maybe 8 weeks.
Yeah. They're on their second.
They're on their disposable income to buy presents or as much as they want. So that means the holiday season will be in the crapper. How is that going to trickle through the rest of the economy?
There's 1 million federal employees that are not getting paid. And even the essential workers now have not gotten, this is their second, I think it was today, is their second no paycheck at this point. And these essential workers are being forced to work. It's like, we've got to have air traffic controllers. We've got to have TSA agents. We've got to have police and law enforcement and everything else. But these guys are out there busting their hump every day. And I feel the worst for the folks that are on FAA, the air traffic controllers. And these guys are already working 60 hours a week.
I just heard it this morning that they have to reduce flights by 10%. They're overloaded.
Yeah, that was my piece of this. I'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah, it's just horrible. Yeah.
Now, I was too young to remember this, but there were 3 government shutdowns, each a month apart in 77. What the hell was Carter doing? There was 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 6 in like a 2-year span.
Yeah, during the 70s. I honestly don't remember much of that.
I don't either.
I think, and we talked about this when President Carter died. He was a wonderful man. He was the biggest cluster of a president we've ever.
You got to go by what is was Clinton a great president because of the stock market? Pull the internet out. Was he still a great president?
Yeah.
He could have gotten Saddam Hussein. Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden,
He was also there when they relaxed the Glass-Steagall thing, which ended up creating our financial crisis 10 years ago. I don't want to crap all over Clinton, although it's easy to do.
Yeah.
But he had a great economy behind him. Look what Carter inherited. Oil embargo was 74. He didn't come until 77. There were a lot of things there with each president, but each president blames the last president.
Of course. Yeah, but you just look back over Carter's career as a president, it was like, oh my God, everything bad that you could do, he did.
He did bring Egypt and Israel together.
That's about the only thing. Yeah, that was the only thing.
And I have this new source. I've been looking at their stuff. It's pretty good, called Financial Fables. Not the best graphic, but this goes back basically 50 years of boom and bust. And I thought it was interesting how it aligned all this. And then where we are now with AI and everything else, like we're beyond all these other asset bubbles that we've seen in the last 50 years. As I tell people trying to compare .com to now, the bigger difference besides the concentration of the stocks that they're in is they're profitable. They're making money. So are their valuations realistic? No, but they are making money as opposed to 25, 30 years ago where not only were they not making money, but they barely had revenue and they had insane PE ratios.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
and it was, you know,
I like the correlation here.
I do like the correlation. Having lived through the tech bubble and the nightmare that was, I think the biggest concern I have at this point, and with the model that I run, it typically right now is running a lot of those higher tech names and stuff like that. And we're making money, but I've been in the process of saying, okay, what if this isn't? What's the game plan? What if this isn't? And I think the thing that concerns me the most right now is the financial engineering that I'm seeing going on with some of these AI companies that I'm loaning money to this customer of mine and they're buying my stuff. And it's okay. That financial engineering always seems to it'll come back to roost at some point. So I think it's something that you've got to be concerned about. I know I am at this point, but the other piece of the pie is these are still profitable companies and you can't poo-poo that. And yeah,
Not only that too, but the concentration, they're all doing business with each other.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, that's what my point was. They're loaning money. Yeah, you're loaning money to your competitor or to your client so that they can buy your stuff. And it's just, or investing in that company so that they have assets to buy your stuff. And it's a little weird. And I know at some point that's going to come back to roost, but I just honestly, I don't know where the peak and the downside comes in. I think we'll have a lot of volatility leading up to that. We saw a little bit of it this week with the quick pullback that we saw in the market, but then the next day we're back and running again. So it's just something you're just going to have to pay attention to. The other piece of that is these big companies like this are a massive component of the S&P 500, of all the other piece there.
I agree. We'll have to see where all these things go, but I can't tell you if this is 98 going to be 99 or if this is 99 and next year is 2000. Whatever it is, we've got to be one of those two, but we're riding the wave until then.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's quickly finish up with my stuff here real quick. I think we've covered this ad nauseum, but FAA announced that they're reducing flights 10% as of today. I was watching an interview with the Transportation Secretary Duffy, who said, you know, he was asked the question, what happens if the shutdown stops and you get back, your guys getting paid again? And he's saying it can take weeks to a month, which rolls into the holiday season to cover all this stuff. What's being affected most? We're dealing with SNAP benefit issues. I know the court system said you got to keep paying it, but the government's going, yeah, but we don't have any money to pay it. Besides $9 billion that is in an emergency fund, which the SNAP benefits will rip through that in less than a month at this point. Travel's being affected. Essential workers are now on their second paycheck being gone. Government contractors are not getting paid, and they may never get paid in this case, unless they've got contracts, no new SBA loans, and no economic data to see how this is affecting the economy. One little green shoot, that information that we do have, the ADP report came out this week and just crushed what had been expected. 25,000 was expected, came in at 42,000. So this is private sector payrolls, which is actually a good thing because a lot of our employment data over the last four and a half years was skewed massively by government hiring, and that's really stopped. So we're actually getting a handle on what the real economy is, what real employment's looking, and that's a good thing. Next Fed meeting will be in December. They just cut rates here this month or last month, and there is no one for November. So another potential one. They weren't going to really commit to it. So that
will have the government data to really.
Yeah, they don't have anything to work off of. And I honestly think that it's going to be ugly once we start getting that information back.
Which will only help them make the case for lower interest rates.
Yeah, hopefully. So great, folks. As always, we do these shows for you. We're reporting. Once again, feels like Groundhog Day with some of this stuff this last month and a half, but we'll be here and we'll be talking about what's affecting it going forward. make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure that you give us an upvote if you can, so that we can keep getting this out to more folks that are out there. So thanks a lot, and we will see you guys back here the very next time.